All right, we are live. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Let me do this one over here. We're live on this one. Okay, beautiful. Welcome to our Wednesday night Kabbalah class. I don't think we've had a class in a couple weeks. We're out of town, but we are back in action. Okay, let's hop right in. We are in the middle of the Sefer Yetzirah. We are now in, this is going to be the 15th class in our sequence. Make sure I got all my doodads here. All right, let's rock and roll. Okay, we are still currently in section 1.1, I believe, the very first section and subsection, first chapter, first section of the chapter in the Sefer Yetzirah. And we're holding on the last pasuk where it speaks about that God created his universe with 3 books: Sepharim, Sefer, Sepharim, and Sipor. Meaning that, and I'm not going to go back into everything again, but these 3 books represent the 3 means in which God communicates with creation and with the universe. So the first book is referring to what we would call as Sefer, which means text or book. And then we have Sephar, which is number, and Sipor, which is to tell or to share or stories, if you will, or communication. So the first one, text, is referring to, as we say, to the qualitative issue idea, meaning words, right? Words are how you show the quality of something. You're explaining or describing something, and each thing has its particular word, right? Like Adam Rishon, the first man, named all the animals. Each animal has a specific description, and its name is indicative of that description. That is what we call as text, or letters, if you will. Then we have a Sephar, which is numbers, which is quantity. That is how we measure things as far as not quality, but quantity, numbers. So Sefer, or text, are referring to the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Sephar, our numbers, are referring to the 10 sfirot, the Esser sfirot, and 10 and 22 equals 32. Hence the opening of the Sefer Yetzirah with 32 mystical paths of wisdom engraved God. These 32 mystical paths of wisdom, we've spoke about at length already, but they're also indicative of these 2 means of communication, which is quantity and quality. Again, quality meaning 22, or the letters, and quantity meaning numbers, or the 10 sfirot. Then we have the third book God used to create the universe, which is actually communication. And that is how you put together sentences, stories. The entire Torah is, in fact, a story. And anytime we communicate to one another, whether that's friends, family, in any means, a book, any way of talking to another person, you're engaging in communication. You're engaging in taking whatever energy is inside of you and sharing it with another human being. Okay, now we're talking about how this universe that God created, he created in 3 main, capacities, each representing one of these 3 books that we spoke about. So you have what is called universe, year, and soul. And we're going to talk about that right now. So let's see, we're holding off. So basically, universe is referring to the dimension of space. Those would be the text, or sefer, which is also the form of the letters. So what is space? There's basically 3 dimensions in the physical universe. You have east, west, north, south, and up and down. That defines the 3-dimensional physical universe, as you will, right? If you go to a movie and you see a 3D movie, it means that it's being projected out in dimensions, as opposed to 2-dimensional, which is just on a paper. So these 3 dimensions represents up, down, north, west, north, south, east, and west, which is right, left, forward and back, and up and down. That is what we call world, or space, connected to the first book of Sefer, which is text. The second book is connected to time, which is year, which is a number, which is referencing numbers, right? Because time is quantitated through numbers. We count seconds, we count minutes, we count hours, we count days, we count weeks, we count months. This is how we keep track of things and how we work in this world. And we know, according to Kabbalah, everything is connected to basically these two main energies, which is orot and kelim, lights and vessels. Lights meaning the energy. In business, we talk about you have to have two things. One, you have to have time, and second, you have to have headspace or energy, because you could have time, but if your head is filled with 100 different things and you have an hour allocated for a certain task and you can't get your head into what you're doing, then Haval, you're wasting the time. Nothing's going to happen. On the other hand, you can have a million great ideas and wonderful thoughts. If you don't have the time to do them, nothing's going to happen. And why? We know one of the things, obviously, we're not the Rebbe. And, people say all the time, well, the Rebbe did, the Rebbe does. Well, okay, fine. But we can look in certain aspects of the Rebbe in a way that we can learn from and emulate. And one of the most important aspects we have from the Rebbe is the value of time. Time is by far the most valuable commodity that we have. In fact, it says not to get into a Musar conversation, but it says the most painful part of the neshama, after it leaves, after 120 goes up, and has to be purified before it goes up into what we call as Gehenna or purgatory or purification, that the most painful aspect of all of this energy, of all this suffering, is the soul's realization of all the time it wasted in this world. Because each one of us is only allocated a certain amount of time to be here. And when that time is wasted, you don't get it back. You can make money, you can lose money, you can make friends, you can lose friends. All these things you can kind of interchange. But time, once it's gone, it's gone. You can never, ever get it back. And we see the value of time. There's a story I share often where one time there was a Farbrengen in 770 and the Rebbe went to go upstairs, and he turned to Rabbi Adakov and asked him, what time is Mincha? He said 3:10 or 3:15. The Rebbe said, well, which one? Because I could accomplish a lot in 5 minutes. So we look at 5 minutes as it's nothing, but to a busy person, 5 minutes is a lot of time. Then we have the idea of energy. So in addition to our time, we have a limited amount of energy that God allocates to each one of us on a daily basis. Meaning, that's what we do in this time, we have to have the energy for, right? So another example that we can learn is if you watch the Rebbe, after he finishes davening, he takes his prayer book, and instead of taking the page like this and closing it, he lifts up one finger and flips it over. And if you watch the videos of the Rebbe, you'll see this action. He literally takes a single finger and flips the book. And someone asked him one time, like, why do you close the book that way? And he explained, I expound the minimal amount of energy needed for each task, because I only have a certain amount of energy God gives me on a daily basis. So if I take my hand and turn the page over, that expounds a lot more energy than using one finger. Now you're talking about someone who's operating on an extremely high level. But just to break that down into our ordinary ways, I personally, in business, as an attorney, as a shliach at the center, in different times, I seek out advice from other people. And I find, hello, welcome home. Yeah, welcome home. I see you got a little bit of sun. It was before you came or while you got here?
I'm only here one day.
Okay. You made up for the whole time you're in New York. So we're talking about time and energy. So when I reach out to busy people and I have to have a conversation with them, you could tell by the way they talk with you, they're very to the point. Rabbi Lipsker, Zichron Lebracha, I remember the first time I met him and spent time with him, I started explaining, okay, well, he's like, okay, I got it. And I was like, I barely explained anything. And it's not that he was rushing me, but busy people are very, very focused on what they're doing. I'm the same way. People call me and it takes me a long time to schedule a meeting. When I'm scheduling a meeting, I'm like, okay, get to the point. Yalla, what are you trying to tell me? I don't need to hear about this whole, because time and energy are very, very valuable commodities, the most important things we have. And that is connected to what we say, time being the year and energy, if you will, being the universe. Then we have the third dimension of the 5-dimensional existences in the world, which is known as soul. Soul is basically for lack of a better terms, the intermediary between physical and spiritual. The upper dimensions that are spiritual and the more physical dimension here. So this is what we call, the Sefer Yetzirah speaks about a 5-dimensional continuum. There's 5 dimensions. First 3 dimensions, right, are space. We said that already. What is that? North, south, east, west, up and down. Sure.
So what is the meaning of space when you feel like, let's go to a human being, someone entering to my space, and what is Kabbalah saying about these things of space? I don't know how to make it boundaries, space, people entering too much.
Correct.
My space. I feel like what is the meaning of it as a human being about space?
Sure. So if you look at it in that framework, space, or the 3 dimensions of physicality, north, south, east, west, and up and down, are represented by what we call a Zah, which is the 6 emotional attributes. North is Gavora, which is the left. South is Chesed, which is the right. East is Tiferet, which is forward. West is Yisod, which is behind. North is Netzach, which is up. Up is Netzach and down is Hod. So all these energies, when you have proper vessels, lights in vessels, you're able to be protected from outside influences. And it's a tricky business because you don't want to be, we all have had different dimensions of trauma affect us in different ways. And one example that just, comes to mind, because I'm kind of relearning a lot of the inner child and trauma stuff that I did many years ago, just to revisit it. And it speaks about like people who did not have healthy boundaries growing up as kids because the kids didn't have healthy boundaries from their parents. And I don't want to go too far into it because it's a whole rabbit hole. No, it's okay. But, we learned that for your first 7 years in this existence, from literally when you're in the womb till birth until 7, you're already formed, your boundaries, your emotions, your energy is already replicated based on what your parents gave to you and what you saw. A child from 0 to 7 absorbs his mother's energy and his father's energy and any energy that's in the house, whether you want to or not. A child is not an adult that says, no, that's not for me. Let me keep that away. This person I trust, let him come in. A child is just a sponge and all that energy is coming in. So most of the time we do not have healthy boundaries growing up. And a result of those healthy boundaries carry us on to later parts in our life. And they manifest in different people in different ways. For me, I shut down. So I just literally closed my heart and shut down everyone around me. I took steroids. I became very big and strong. I had muscles like this and I became mean and angry. I just didn't let anyone in. That was my protective mode. Other people have the opposite. They have people who, I don't know, I'll just come an example. Like a girl can go to a club and a guy starts talking to her. Next thing she goes home with him because she doesn't know how to have a proper boundary of, no, I'm not supposed to have sex with a guy just because I'm talking with him. That's not healthy. But there's no capacity to say no because they don't know how to say no because they were not built with proper boundaries and they never learned those proper boundaries. So there's extreme examples of this all over the place. But the idea is that when we have healthy boundaries, right, we're able to protect ourselves and not remove ourselves from the world. So we can enter into the world, and it's like an exercise that we did before, which I do with people, is you build circles. So the innermost circle, that is you and God. That's a relationship that is private to you and God that no one else really is anyone's business, even a husband and a wife. Then you add another layer. Once you get married, you have your husband and wife in that circle. And then you have the next layer, which is your children or your family. Then you have your closest friends or those closest to you. Then you have acquaintances. Then you have people you do business with. Then you have neighbors. Then you have people in your community. Each one has a separate circle of how much you let that person in, right? You don't meet your a stranger in the street and they're like, what are you doing tonight? And you're like, oh, I'm going to go out with some friends, do some drugs, probably have sex with, like, too much information. Like, why are you telling that person that? Well, I don't want to, I want to be honest. No, being honest doesn't mean just opening yourself up to every single person you know. And on the contrary, you don't want to close yourself off from every single person because then you get into an intimate relationship and you can't show intimacy because you're so used to being close that you don't know how to open. So this is lifelong negotiations of figuring out how time before you build a comfort level and you're people into your space. Everyone has these different negotiations. So what often happens in an empath, someone who is overly sensitive to the world around them, every single move, you feel like someone's coming into you. You're driving a car, you feel like someone's coming into your lane all the time. You're walking down the street, you feel like everyone's staring at you. You're constantly feel that everyone's energy is coming in, and it's for a lack of healthy boundaries. So this space represents physical space, but it also represents these sphirot. And these sphirot develop our emotional being, right? And the emotions come from the heart. And the emotions literally are it's energy and motion, right? Emotion. It's how our energy manifests to ourselves and to the outside world. And this is the negotiation that we have to go through as we start getting older and realizing that it's time to leave the victimhood and realize that we're screwed up. I've yet to meet a set of parents from, wow. But every one of us had to go through whatever journey we had to go through. And at some point in time, we realized I'm not comfortable either being too closed or too open. So I have to work on rebuilding these healthy boundaries in a way that, and it takes time. You know, every time you're a little bit too open, the next stage is you become too closed, right? Anytime you're too close, it's this constant negotiation to get to a point where, and it's very hard, that it acts almost like your heart acts almost as like a safety valve. You have to know how much air to let out and how much air to let in. It's like driving a stick shift, right? You ever drive the shift car? Anyone drive a shift car before? No? No one? Okay. So shift car is you're constantly between the clutch and the gas. If you give too much gas, you rub. Too much clutch, you don't go anywhere. And so this is this moving in and out of these dimensions. And it's a hard thing to do. It takes time and it takes work. And the most important thing to do is, as we're going through these growth stages, to be aware. The Alter Rebbe says so brilliantly that we have to become a master of accounts. He's talking about I offer too much information to them. Or you know what? That was not nice of me. I closed down. I should like ourselves, and not to beat ourselves up, and not to be like, I can't believe I said that. But okay, I'm gonna act a little bit different. These are negotiation things that over time, it's not a push a button and everything gets solved. So
this is the world of doing.
Correct. Are going on past and future and present.
So if I'm living all the time in the past and in the current, it's like it's a bina or chokmah.
Chocha,
If I'm all the time worried about the future,
bina.
yeah, problem with both Abba and Ima.
It's both.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've done studies on this,
So
and
you can ask questions.
90, yeah, I don't remember the number exactly, but over 95% of someone's thoughts in a daily basis, at least unconsciously, are reality. We're either regretting something that happened in the past, hoping or anticipating for something that will come in the future, or afraid of something that may happen in the future. All the time projecting this energy away one place where it's the most important, which is the present. This is that of being aware and present. You don't have anything. And this is one of the roots of all trauma, because when the soul is in a position that is traumatic for it, it leaves, it takes flight. The soul cannot be present in these situations. This is the disconnection. This is why in most trauma healing, the first things they teach you is focus on your breath. it's frightening because the people who don't pick it up, but even like their phone vibrates and just look at it, lose about 60 to 70% of their focused energy in 1 second when they go back to their task. So you're going back to your task, but your head is still in who just texted you or what's going on. Even if your phone's not on vibrate and not on ring, but the calls could come in, but you don't even know about it, just the anticipation, what if someone's trying to reach through to me, totally derails you. Now imagine you're doing a high level task. Would you want, God forbid, I won't use anyone in the room, but let's say a loved one or a family member had to go in for a brain surgery. Would you want that neurosurgeon in the middle of the surgery saying, oh, hold on a second, someone's WhatsApping me. Oh, wait, oh, someone liked one of my posts. Like, okay, what's going on now? Never in a million years. That would be malpractice. But we do it all day long. Not that what we're doing is brain surgery, but there is a value to everything we do. And when we're not present in what we're doing, and you can't be present with these things going on, it's just impossible. And it's not by coincidence. And technology, on one hand, is a necessary evil, but it's made to be a tool. The modern computer was actually introduced into the World's Fair, I think it was in the 1960s or 70s. It was like bigger than this room. It was like a very, crazy system. And the entire advent of the personal computer is for one reason. So people can work less and spend more time with their families. We're going to drop the work week down from 40 hours a week to 20 hours a week because you'll be able to get done twice as much. And now we have the opposite. We have so much technology that there's all the times things going on nonstop. But the question is, are we present? Our brain can't do mental gymnastics, right? Like if you have a discussion or someone texts you something and it's disturbing, or you can't focus based on what you're doing. So it is challenging. It's not impossible. But like anything else, it's about setting up proper boundaries and proper limitations on how to use these tools without them controlling us. To do that takes work. It's no different than someone saying, I'm going to start watching what I eat, or I'm going to start exercising. To develop and build new habits takes time. It takes repetition, and it takes a will, a desire. The problem is most people don't have a desire to do these things because we just assume, all right, this is just life. I've got to deal with it. Hello. So anyways, challenging things, but nevertheless can be contained if we have the desire to do so. So these are basically the 5 dimensions that exist in all reality. We are now living in the 5th dimension. The 5th dimension is the final coupling according to the Sefer Yetzirah, which is Keter and Malchus, which is simplified as God and the world. They can make it very simple. And what's happening right now is the godly energy is the Histalshalus, which is the chain of creation, is a chain. It starts from above and goes all the way down to below through the 5 worlds: Adam, Kadmon, Atzilus, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya. And it's all the way up top, all the way bottom. But what's happening, and what happens in Geula, is that linear line starts turning into a circle. So Keter and Malchus will start to meet, and everything will enter into a state of flow. There'll be no more upper and lower worlds. Everything will be a state of oneness. So the godly energy is coming in all over the place, and it's coming down into this physical world. You see, even in the political realm, you have political parties starting to eat each other alive. It used to be like, all right versus left. Now the right is factioning and eating each other. The left is factions eating each other because the energy it doesn't know where to hide. There's a good energy, a pressure coming in of light coming into the world, and the darkness is looking for a place to escape, and it can't find where to go. It's like a maze. So all this energy is coming in. This is the 5th dimension we're living in, which is Keter Malchus, and that is when God physical world, the Dir Batach Toinim. This is what Mashiach's about, the 3rd temple, where all this energy will coalesce into one, and we'll realize that there's no difference in physical and spiritual. Everything is
Yeah, but
The numbers, the gematria, is the quantity, the numbers. And the actual Torah itself, the book, the stories is communication. God communicated this through a story. It's any means of transferring of information, however it may be.
So
Yep.
if I'm not communicating right, what is the meaning
What do you mean?
in spiritual? Like, I don't work in this dimension. I have a problem with this dimension. What is the meaning of it?
I don't know. What does it mean if you're not communicating right or properly? It could be a lot of things. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's a deficiency. It could be a lack of communication skills. It could be a lack of knowledge of how to communicate. Communication, in a way, is similar to like Netzach and Hod. Netzach and Hod is Chesed and Gevurah, is how much of that energy balances, right? Inside. Chesed and Gevurah is the balance between the giving and keeping back energy, right? But Netzach and Hod is actually the delivery of that energy. It's how much effort am I putting into a task? How much of my energy, how much am I letting go and trusting God? And when I'm communicating with someone, how much the art of storytelling is how much to disclose and how much to conceal. A good storyteller doesn't start with the end of the story, because then there's no story. A movie that holds your interest slowly drops little bits of information, and you're trying to figure out, and you're trying to see what's going to happen next, and then out of nowhere, it takes you on. You're like, whoa! Like you go up, you cry, you laugh, whatever, because it's very skillful in art of how much to disclose and how much to hold back. And this is a real story. Is you're slowly building up energies until it comes to a final solution.
So communication is more like coming to us, yeah, for the work of.
Yeah, communication through behavior, through speech, through writing, through yeah, sure. Even face could be a communication, right? You could look at someone's face and get a sense, which is why they say in communications that 80 or 90% of what is communicated is not the actual words that are coming out. It's the tone, it's the facial expression. A child or a dog, for that sake, lahavdil, it's like I see people talking to their, we just came back from Guatemala and people are talking to their dogs in Spanish. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. How do you know he knows Spanish? It's like people talk to dogs in their native tongues. So that means a dog knows every single language. Dogs don't understand language like humans do. They're sensing energies, cues, like different, same thing with a child. Before a child has the context or the syntax to be able to decipher between words, all the child is seeing is the mother or father's face, the energy behind what they're saying, and they're translating that imagery into yes, no, good, bad, right? A mother screams at a child's 3 or 4 years old, doesn't know hello, and picks up one of the mother's crystal I don't know, vases or something, and starts playing with it, and the mother yells over and says, no, what are you doing? That's valuable, don't drop that. The child doesn't know vase, crystal, no, yes. The child just hears and sees the mother's energy, and right away, I did something wrong. I don't want to do that anymore. So this is also communication without actually the words that are coming out. It's the energy. Okay. Now, so we're speaking about, the first book again is space, the second is time, and the third is spirituality. So these 3 books define the 3 ways in which the array of the 32 paths can be presented. First, one can draw a diagram representing them as one would picture them in a book. This is the aspect of text, the diagram. Okay. This also is the aspect in which they appear in the book of the Torah, the first chapter of Genesis. Secondly, remember we spoke about 32 times the name Elohim is used in creation in the book of Genesis, referring to these 32 paths that God used to create the world, 32 paths of Chokhmah. Second, one can express the numerical sequences and distributions of these paths. For example, the Sefer Yetzirah states that 32 paths consist of 10 sfirot and 22 letters. The latter, which is the 22 letters, are 3 mothers, This is Aleph, Mem, and Shin. The 7 doubles and the 12 elementals, right? So these are the elementals or the diagonals. The 3 mothers are these lines like this. And the doubles are the emotional attributes. They have 2 attributes to it. So each one of these letters in the Hebrew alphabet is either a mother, a double, or an elemental. 3 mothers, 7 doubles, and 12 elementals. 7, 3, and 12 is 10, and 12, 22, 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. This is the aspect of the number in the 32 paths. Match it with the 10 numbers, 10 sfirot. It is also related to their affinity to certain geometrical forms. As we go further in the Sefer Yetzirah, we'll see how all these numbers array into different geometries. We see like Rabbi Ginsburg, the Makubal, he connects a lot of Kabbalah to physics, geometry, different spatial things, because it all connects back to the same energy. Everything in the Sefer Yetzirah, literally, it's the building blocks of everything in the world. From geometry to science, it's all in this book. It's amazing. Finally, one could speak of the relationships between these paths as they convey information. This is communication. It is closely related to the 32 paths where they represent states of consciousness, which is in the back of the book. So every one of these 32 paths, it gets like really deep and really interesting, represents, as we spoke about before, that all the Mekubalim in previous generations, when they were capable of, would use the Sefer Yetzirah to actually climb out of this physical world into the spiritual realms. Their soul would leave their body, they'd go up, they'd go into the heavenly academies, they'd study Torah with the different groups, they'd make a bond with God that before they left, that God will return their soul back into their physical body, and they'd come back down. Literally a tree. That's why it's called a tree, because you can climb up a tree, climb up and down it. So all these combinations of these different letters can be used. It's known that the Maral Maprag created the golem from the Sefer Yetzirah. He took the Sefer Yetzirah and used it to create a golem. And I don't know if anyone in this generation knows how to do such a thing, but there are certain meditations that you can learn that can affect reality. It's called Kabbalah Ma'aseh, like actual Kabbalah. In previous generations, it's kind of a lost art and it's not really used anymore. But like some people in Israel, you still go to a Makubal, and they can, through arranging consciously in their mind, different zivugim, different connections of sfirot and different upper worlds, and affect this reality. Because if you affect the energy source of something here, you can affect it. If you affect it in its source, you could affect it down below. You could literally change the outcome of the world by changing the energy from above. Yeah, it's pretty cool. If you, on a more limited sense, you see like homeopathic medicine. I don't know if anyone's ever used or studied homeopathic medicine, but homeopathic medicine works a little bit below the surface, and it goes into a deeper reality to heal the illness or sickness, whatever it is, or disease at its roots a little bit deeper inside. So now imagine going deeper and deeper, deeper into that. And that's why you see there's many stories. I mean, especially with our Rebbe, which is more, I think, than ever before. I don't know if there's ever been a Rebbe or a leader who has connected the physical and the spiritual worlds so open and obviously, where people would come to the Rebbe and say, I'm having problems. Hello, welcome home. Well, we have a homecoming tonight. How are you? No, cool. Oh. So people would go to the Rebbe and tell the Rebbe, someone is sick, and he'd say, check the mezuzahs. Something's wrong with my business, check your tefillin. Disconnected, right? But you see the deep connection between physical and spiritual. By fixing the spiritual root, you can actually affect and fix the physical reality around you. Okay, these 3 aspects are most apparent in the letters of the alphabet. There are 3 primary ways in which the letters can be interpreted. First, there is the physical form of the letters as they are written in a book. This is the aspect of text, right? The actual letters, like that's called text as they're written in a book. Second, there is the numerical value or the gematria of the letter, which is the number, right? Aleph is 1, Beit is 2. Every letter has a corresponding number to it. And finally, there's the sound of the letter and the way it's pronounced. This is communication. It's the cantillation marks in the Torah, the little marks above. It's how you actually pronounce that. So in a book, if you will. So text, Sefer, is the physical form of the letter, pertains to the continuum of space, since form only can be defined in space. This is universe. Number, Sefer, implies sequence, and this is the sequence of time, which is known as year, right? We talked about time before. Time is a very interesting phenomenon, because how do you define present? Because as I'm talking to you, it's no longer present, it's already past. There is time. 100% there is time. Is it? Is that my sign? You want me to stop? Yeah, I'll finish this point and then we'll stop. So there, of course there's time.
Does the past still exist?
Yes.
Where?
Every single thing, keep in mind that God created time. Time is
But aren't we just now always? Like you're always, it's always just now.
no,
You're in this now and then in another now.
no, because this now is now past. This recording right now is in the past.
And you can still go and watch it later.
Yeah. But that doesn't make
You
that present.
have
It's past. It already happened.
Video of the past, but you can't go to the past.
No, but the past is past.
The past left doesn't exist anymore.
It does exist.
Where?
Huh?
Where does it
It doesn't exist in time, but in up above, there's no time. How could God see the future?
Does the future also exist?
It's
So the past, the future, and the present is happening all at the same time.
no. All that's happening right now is the present. Before it happens, it's still in the future. After it happens, it's in the past.
Before it happens,
It's something in the future. It hasn't happened yet.
Right.
Once it happened, it's already in the past. While it's happening, it's in the present.
that's my point. It's only
So how do we measure days, years, months? We'd still be stuck in the same year.
thing we're doing.
No, time is a real thing. We didn't create it. God created it. Who determined that 60 seconds are in a minute and 60 minutes are in an hour? 100%. Right here, Sefer Yetzirah. God created all of these measurements. 365 days in a year. Like, how do we know this? Based on
That
cycles.
still doesn't mean that the past. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's time is a very trippy thing to talk about because it can mess with your brain a little bit. If you
makes you like hard to believe that you have free will.
You do. So I'll end in this point, and then we'll I'll end at this point and we'll come back here. So if you've ever done plant medicine, right, and you've gone out of this dimension, which I have, you exist above time.
Yeah.
It's like, but time keeps moving, but
You're not here.
you're not here, but you are. But where are you?
You are over there. Your body may be here. Or there is here. You're just open to the there.
It's trippy. Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's all happening. You're just tapped into something else. Maybe.
So God creates time, and it is possible to enter realms above time, because time is a creation.
What's going on over there? It just is.
To be continued. But I would just want to answer Shana's point, because this is one of the most challenging questions that is always asked is, how do we have free choice if God could see the future? Seems like a contradiction. Right? You do?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Give a good analogy.
Could have been me, but go ahead.
I feel like imagine somebody had two colored candies.
That wasn't mine. Yes.
And a yellow candy.
Mhm.
And they were like, okay, you have the choice between the yellow or red candy. They knew you were going to choose the red candy. You know, so at the end of the day, like, it is free choice, but God already knows.
Right.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So correct. Another way to frame it is that we have a camera here and it's recording, right? So if I told you, I bet you right now I could play back everything that just happened in the last 45 minutes. You believe me, right? Because it's being recorded. So God's camera can record not only the past, but the future, but it doesn't take away our free choice. It's not, because God is above time. So he knows what you're going to do before you do it, but it doesn't mean you don't have a free choice to choose which path you're going to do. Because just like I can look into the past, God will look into the future. Correct, because he creates it. But it doesn't take away your choice to choose, like she said, which color candy you want to eat, or whatever the case may be. Because he sees, but you still have the choice to do it.
Logically, that's hard to understand. Doesn't mean that's not true.
Correct. So there's an old saying: if we could understand God, we would be God, because God is infinite, and we're trying to wrap a finite brain that's not quite registering here around an infinite God. 8 billion people in the world, and God knows every one of their thoughts continuously. Does that make any sense? No, because we can never grasp such a thing. I don't even know what you're thinking right now.
God is not a man in the sky. God is not a man in the sky that just knows.
Yeah, exactly. It's a whole different dimension. The more Hasidus we learn, and the deeper we go into our soul, and the more Kabbalah, Hasidus, all these things, we can start getting a glimpse or a little taste into perception of beyond. It says Adam Rishon, the first man, was able to see from one end of the world to the other. How can you do such a thing? You're standing here. How can you see the other end of the world? Because from a spiritual standpoint, his chokhmah, his mind was in such an advanced state of reality that he was able to contain things beyond what your perception are. I'll leave you with this thought. The biggest genius in the world, I don't know, Albert Einstein would have used 5% of their brain. The average human being uses 2, 3, 4% of your brain capacity. When Mashiach comes, you'll have 100% capacity of your brain. You know what that means? No.